That's pretty cool. Well, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Freedom to Fight. I'm your host, Anura Mathis, and I have an exciting episode to share with you today. I have the honor and privilege of interviewing Nattie Boss. She is such a dynamic person. She is a black belt in BJJ. She's a brown belt in Judo. She's a kettlebell instructor. She's a registered dietitian. The list goes on and on. She's a competitor. She's a coach. She's an inspiration, to be honest. I have such a delightful conversation with her about her journey and the advice that she has for other people that are seeking martial arts as an outlet, as a healing process, as to be competitors themselves. She has a wealth of information, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Thanks for listening.
Okay, it says it started on my end. So, um, hi, Nattie. My name is Indira. I'm the host of Freedom to Fight. I'm glad to talk to you about BJJ and mental health and how that's impacted you. So, I'm just going to kind of turn the mic over to you. You can introduce yourself to my audience, and we'll get started.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm more than happy to be here. My name's Nattie Boss, as I'm known on the interweb. My real name is Natalie DeSimone, which literally nobody knows, but now you guys do. But I go by Nattie Boss, and I'm a performance coach, and I use a holistic approach in everything that I do. I have lots of titles, so it's really hard to kind of encapsulate everything that I do in a statement. But I'm also a registered dietitian, so I infuse as part of my performance coaching, obviously the nutrition aspect of things. And I'm also a breathwork facilitator. And I was trained through Pause Breathwork, and that was back in 2019. I integrate breathwork in everything that I do, and that's really what's helped me shift into not just the physical performance aspect, but really focusing with athletes on the mental, the spiritual, the emotional side of performance when it comes to athletes, and working through trauma, working through our general human conditioning. And just, I really like to call myself like an empowerment coach, because that's something that I really feel is my calling, is empowering others. And whatever modalities I have to do or learn along my life journey, I integrate that and teach that to other people so that they can step more into their power. And that's something that I really do. And I also, kind of from a fitness perspective, I'm a kettlebell instructor. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm a brown belt in judo. I've been doing judo and jiu-jitsu since 2010, so over a decade. And I've been a lifelong athlete and a lifelong martial artist. So I really see martial arts as a way of life. And it's just given me so many opportunities. And it's just such a vehicle for growth and getting to know yourself more. And I'm just such an advocate for martial arts as a lifestyle. And that's another thing that I like to infuse and help athletes kind of view martial arts or jiu-jitsu as, versus just like a hobby. But if you adopted it as a lifestyle, how would that shift things? And so that's a little bit of what I do. And as far as some of the offerings I have, there's a lot of things that I offer. Everything that you can find is on my website, which is bodybyboss.com, www.bodybyboss.com. And it really depends on what your needs are and what you're looking for, but there's different levels of support. If you are more self-sufficient and like to work through programs on your own, I have programs for that. And then if you like the coaching aspect, mentorship, we also have a few programs that include that aspect as well. If you are somebody who desires to have that accountability and support alongside making transitions and lifestyle changes, which I think is so helpful. I've invested in myself over the years because I personally like to have that accountability as well. So that is also an option. But yeah, so you can also follow me on Nattie Boss RD on Instagram. That's where I like to hang out the most. And that's a little bit of a little intro as far as that's concerned. I will say real quick, because I'm very proud of it, is I'm only 4 months, September, October, November, 4 months at Black Belt, and I've already had my first title. So I'm really excited about that. I won the 2022 Nogi Pans. So I'm really excited about that. And then I did the Waco Open and I got double gold there. And so far I have a lot of wins under my belt at Black, and that just means a lot because I've literally done so much to get to this point over the course of a decade. So it's really nice to start seeing all that hard work pay off. So it's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. I'm at the very beginning of my martial arts journey, but it's an honor to talk to you and to hear your story and that you're competing. It's amazing.
Oh,
I want to compete. I've not done that yet. So maybe I could talk to you about preparation for competition. But
oh yeah.
I thank you for the introduction. Thank you for being on the show and talking to my audience, which I hope is growing, and I hope to help support you and all of your titles. So I guess I'm gonna just start at question one, because I didn't realize your lifelong journey in martial arts. So tell me about that.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Philadelphia. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the 215, and I was raised like lower middle class, but where we lived at some point was one of the worst places in the world, which is Kensington. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Kensington, but Kensington is the opioid center of the United States. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of just really misfortune people there and crime and things like that. And long story short of it was I got into self-defense at a very young age of 7 because I was getting into a lot of fights and I basically needed to learn how to do it in a proper way. And I had a lot of anger as a child, a lot of aggression as a child, and it made sense to kind of do some type of fighting sport to kind of channel some of that, while also my parents' perspective was more so self-defense. And I just was obsessed with it from day one. I loved the structure. I loved the discipline. I started in Taekwondo. So I actually did Taekwondo and I got my black belt in Taekwondo. And once I got my black belt in Taekwondo, I was competing, and that was years later. I was competing at the highest levels, always competitor my whole life. I did other sports as well, but for the sake of the martial art conversation, Taekwondo was my primary one before I found jiu-jitsu. And I did high level competition in Taekwondo. I did really, really well. I don't think I've ever lost anything that I ever did in Taekwondo. And that's going to circle back when we get to jiu-jitsu, because that was a huge lesson I've learned in jiu-jitsu. So I kind of came in with a lot of confidence with jiu-jitsu because I was such an established athlete, especially with the martial arts. And I kind of wanted to round out my game. It was really something initially. I always tell the story, so it's really funny. I also love dancing, and that's just like an expression that I love. And so when I was looking to transition into something other than Taekwondo, I actually looked into capoeira because it's basically a blend of Taekwondo and like kicking and martial arts with dance. And I was like, this literally is perfect. I would love to do this. And at the time when I Googled it, there was an academy that said they did it on the website. And so I called in to ask to go to a class. And then it was, as the universe would have it, basically that company that was doing the capoeira, they had just recently left like a few months prior. So there was no capoeira at that school. And then they basically, as always, with the natural sales pitch, they, invited me to do jiu-jitsu instead. And I was like, I literally have no idea what this is, so I will try it out. And so I went and I just fell in love with my intro lesson. And I was like, this is amazing. I am obsessed. I want to do it. And the interesting thing was I started that right before I went to college. So it was right in the beginning of the summer. So I knew I was going to college that fall. So I really only had the summer to really dive into it. So I was like, I want to commit. They worked with me with a custom kind of payment plan for just the summer. And I was like, I'm going to commit to this. And I started doing like 2 days and just went every day. And I was really hooked because in the initial stages, I was hooked because coming in, I did have an ego, 100%. Like I said, I was an established martial artist, an established athlete. I was really fit, and I thought I would be able to win everything because I had always won everything. And then when I stepped on the mat and I was getting triangled and arm barred and back took and like fighting for my life, I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, I'm a high level athlete in martial arts, like, and I'm basically just a rag doll, like, which is, I feel like it can go two ways. People can either be deterred by that, and if they're really let their ego kind of run the show, they can just be like, this isn't for me, and bail out because it's too hard and they liked winning all the time. Fortunately, I didn't have that mindset, and I actually took the opposite approach of like, wow, I'm going to master this thing because I never want to be in that position. I never want to feel like I, have all these skills and they're for nothing, because whenever I got to the ground, I was just annihilated. And so it just fueled my fire to start there. And I literally never stopped. I just always did it. It was a little bit of a longer journey. As I said, I just got my black belt 4 months ago, but it was a longer journey because I had just started college. So being a lifelong martial artist, loyalty has always been something that is near and dear to me. So even though I was new to that gym, I loved the vibe right away. I loved the instructor right away. I ended up marrying the instructor. So it was a good thing that I stayed. But I just knew I didn't want to just transition to a different gym. So I just waited. And then during like Christmas break and during summer break is when I would like go and train until college was over. Then I was able to commit full time to actually doing it, which is when my progress started to pick up because I was doing it more consistently. So that's a little bit of how I got into jiu-jitsu. That story is funny, and like got hooked ever since. And I started competing as well at 3 months. So right before I went to college, it was August 3rd. I went to college, maybe the 28th or 26th, typical of a fall semester. And I did my first tournament, and like, I just knew that was like what I wanted to do. I was like, this is incredible. Like, this is the next step for me.
I think it's amazing. I'm glad that you shared that aspect that you started competing so early, because I'm just 2 stripes in on my white belt, and I felt it was really ambitious to prepare for competition. But I shared this on previous episodes, but I was injured. I sustained a concussion, and so I wasn't able to compete. But knowing that somebody like you had competed at 3 months, and I've been training for, I think, 15 months now. So that's something that maybe I should pursue in the near future, and ask you advice on how do you prepare for competition? How do you get ready for something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the advice I would give you now is way different than perhaps at 3 months. But when it comes to competition, the first thing is really committing yourself fully. When you have a goal and you commit to that goal, I think one of the biggest things is like our fear of failure, which is something I struggled with my entire jiu-jitsu career up until lately. I finally broke that barrier. And there was a big driver behind everything I did, especially competing. And I think when we go in, or just have that as a mentality, a belief system, we don't fully commit to something, because if we fully commit to something, that means that we then have to really rise to the occasion and actually commit all the aspects to it. And when we put in all that hard work and then we fail, it really becomes discouraging. So it's almost easier to give us an out by not fully committing. And we might sign up. We might sign up and like say, oh, I am doing this, but we're not really doing the work to set ourselves up for success in the competition. So then when we do fail, we can kind of use all these other outlets as blames of like, oh, well, it's because of this, and it's because of this, and this is why. And so it like just creates this cycle of like, well, this is, why I failed. So we have this scapegoat that we can use, versus like really fully committing and being and kind of telling ourselves that like, no, this is what I want. Like, I want to win. And like, I deserve to win, and I have the capability of winning, and I need to do what it takes to win. And so I think the first step when it comes to competing is really going all in. Like, whether it's a local tournament, whether it's the highest levels of IBJJF, EDCC, Like literally, it doesn't matter what level, you have to commit yourself to actually signing up. And then when you do, you've made that commitment. So it's in your best interest so that you don't self-sabotage to really do all the things required. Look at your nutrition, look at your recovery, optimize your sleep, balance out your training, work on your mindset. And this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because this is what I do. Because the thing I noticed missing in the industry is actually support in actually providing those things, right? Like we sign up and then we're just expected to compete and compete well, but we're not actually taught and empowered into knowing what are the aspects to make me compete well. And like, how do I actually apply these different things and actually integrate these behaviors and these shifts and lifestyle changes in order to be able to compete well, consistently, and in my journey continually. So I think one of the biggest things, because really that sets the foundation for everything else. Like once you commit and then you make the decision of like, okay, so I need to work on my nutrition. I need to do this. So like what other methods of support or mentorship or program can I like look at to gain the education? Like knowledge is power, right? But more than knowledge is power, applied knowledge is power. So you have to actually apply the knowledge in order to feel empowered, not just learn it, because we all know, quote unquote, what we need to do, what we should do, but we don't follow through with it. Or actually apply it. And then again, we say, well, this is why it didn't work.
I appreciate that. I especially the first comment that you made about fully committing. The first thing that came into my mind is this is how people treat romantic relationships sometimes. Well, I mean, friendships as well, but that specifically, and probably something I'm doing, is not fully committing because it's scary to do that. The fear of failure, that you're making yourself vulnerable, and then it could all, not work out for you in the end. So
100%. Fear of failure, fear of rejection. Those are some of the biggest drivers. And the thing is, when we operate from those places, we're operating from a small sense of self, and which limits our potential. And I love that you mentioned the relationship aspect, because the fear of failure, fear of rejection, that doesn't just show up in jiu-jitsu. All of the different facets of our life are just these manifestations and representations of these beliefs. The beliefs are always the first step. And we can see how these beliefs manifest themselves if we are open to taking an honest look at the different areas of our life. If we're open to saying, oh, okay, this fully committing, where am I not fully committing? Am I not fully committing in my career? Am I not fully committing in my relationships? Am I not fully committing with my nutrition? Am I not fully committing with jiu-jitsu? And then we have to do the inner work to really understand deeper layers of that commitment issue, which is usually some type of wounding from our childhood conditioning.
I appreciate you saying that too. I was equating this concept to the concept of shame. That's an aspect that I've come to understand is affects all of humanity, and it's just part of our reality that we're going to have to give space to that, nurture that, and just incorporate that in what we're seeing in our relationships in our lives. But that's always something I'm going to have to tend to. And there's going to be a voice that says, hey, no, don't sign up for that competition because you only have 2 stripes. How dare you?
Yes. But we can reframe it. We can reframe that as like competition gets to be an opportunity for us to not just showcase what we've learned so far, but it gets to show us what we very honestly don't quite know yet and what we need to work on. And so it's extremely self-sabotaging when we don't compete. You don't have to be a high-level competitor like myself and like compete constantly and at the high levels. But I do believe at every single belt rank, you should at least compete once a year. Like just once a year minimum, because it gives you so much feedback. It gives you so much feedback on not just physically the growth that you can start applying in the gym of like, where are my holes when I'm under pressure in that way, and like work on improving that. So I have goals one of the biggest questions I always get is like, how do I create goals in jiu-jitsu? And like, that's one way to create goals, is put yourself out there so that you understand what are the missing links in your game, and then detach your worth from it, detach all the stories, and just objectively view it as information that then now through this information you can learn the technique or learn whatever it is, the drill, to improve for next time. And like, that's how we have to view competition. You know, if we tangle our worth in our competition, it's going to suck. And I know that from firsthand experience.
And also, I think at my first promotion, so I trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai and wrestling, and I really did not include myself in my dojo. Like I didn't include myself as part of the group that would somebody that would even get promoted. That people are noticing me and I'm progressing. So it just kind of stopped all of it. It just caused a halt because it affected me so deeply that I'm a part of this and I get to do something with it. I
Love that.
I get it's my relationship. That's what my professor said at my previous gym, that it's your journey. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is here, and you get to have whatever relationship you want with it, despite your teachers, your coaches. You know, they're gonna have, you know, a different perspective maybe on what your purpose is, but you get to make that your own, and that's the most exciting thing. It's like having a new life to step into.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said like that being noticed, because that's also one of the core needs that we all have, is being seen, you know, being acknowledged. And this is a lot of the work I do with athletes because, you know, when it comes to, of course, like one of our core needs is to be acknowledged, to be seen. And that's something that needs to happen in childhood for us to feel safe and secure in moving through the world and getting that, you know, acknowledgement. But there comes a point where like, okay, if we didn't receive it as a child, it's up to us to start acknowledging ourselves instead of beating ourselves up, instead of criticizing ourselves. The only way for us to move forward in an empowering way is to two things. Number one, begin to acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge when you show up to class. Acknowledge when you do things well. You know, the smallest of things. That's going to start building that relationship again with your younger self. And then also allow yourself to receive acknowledgement from other people. Because although we deeply desire to be acknowledged, there's also this receptor block that we have in receiving, because then there's a deeper wound around worthiness that we're not worthy to receive. So this conversation can go on for hours, but just to kind of give you guys a taste of how layered this is and how complex jiu-jitsu actually is. It's not actually as simple as we think it is.
If it's our whole self, it's you can't hide, and you can't join an MMA gym and go in the corner and hide, because they're still going to see you. They're still going to notice you if you're a part of the class and your progress. So, yeah, there's no hiding.
100%.
So I'm going to shift and ask you what you would say your biggest regret is, because you were mentioning your journey in Taekwondo and then shifted to Jiu-Jitsu, and then there was a reality check there. So I want to ask you about that.
And this is related to Jiu-Jitsu regret?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to some of my friends and my husband about this, and my biggest regret, seriously, guys, if you're listening and you haven't competed yet, or you have competed and you still have the videos on your phone or whoever recorded them, don't delete the matches that you lost. That is my biggest regret in jiu-jitsu. I was so devastated after losing, especially at blue belt, because I've had to work through for years this fear of failure and attaching my worth to the outcome of the match. And any match that I lost was always mental. Like, granted, it was like points and things like that, but I really didn't lose it because they were physically more capable. It was always mental. I beat myself before I ever stepped on the mats, and that showed in my performance. And I beat myself up for deleting those videos because there was a time where I never even watched the videos post match because I literally couldn't without sobbing and just without feeling such shame, without feeling such disappointment in myself. And it would just put me in a dark place. So I was like, okay, well, then the answer is to avoid it altogether, right? Avoidance is one of our tendencies when things feel uncomfortable. So I avoided that. And then, even years later, I would go through my computer and clear out some things, and I would see some videos, and I'm like, well, this was a match that I lost. I might as well delete it. It's not going to be of any value. And I would just delete all the matches I lost that I had recorded. And being where I am now and the headspace I'm at now and the level I'm at now and in the role of teaching and instructing and seminars and things, like, that was my biggest regret because there is so much lesson in failure. There's so much, as I just mentioned, like, you get to learn what your holes were. And granted, at this point, I probably fixed those holes being a white belt, maybe that I lost, or blue belt that I lost, and being a black belt now. I probably did fix those holes, but it would still be nice to be able to watch those videos to just see like what that evolution was, to see and celebrate myself even in that evolution. But I literally can't do that because I don't have the videos anymore. I can't learn from those mistakes. I can't remember a match that happened in 2010, and like really see how far I've progressed. So like my biggest regret is deleting those things. So like as uncomfortable as it feels to maybe lose a match, don't delete them. Like you might need to give yourself space before you can actually approach them again from that clear headspace and from an objective perspective, which is what I would recommend. Not when you're emotionally reactive. When you're emotionally in it, you don't want to go watch that. It's going to exacerbate that like shame cycle and those dark emotions. When you're able to neutrally do it, maybe with your coach or somebody that you trust or feel safe with, explore those things and then just have them support you in like extracting just what you need to work on moving forward. And again, detaching your worth from that, because it's such valuable feedback. It's like priceless feedback. And I deleted that for myself because I just simply couldn't stand to see myself lose, so that's my biggest regret in jiu-jitsu.
I think that is amazing advice. Thank you for that. And I'm although I haven't competed, I shy away from being recorded in class and looking at the recordings, even though it's on social media. It's not it will not do me any favors to avoid that. So I appreciate that, and it made me think of in my graduate program, I'm a professional counseling psychology program in different. Our practicum was to work out of the community counseling center. So we had the double blind mirrors, and students could watch you practice therapy, and it was recorded. And the idea was to put that in front of your professor, so everybody could just critique you, just cut down everything you thought that you knew.
That's like the most vulnerable state.
Really, and it's for your grade. It's for you to earn this degree. So you have to be vulnerable. But that I learned so much from what my ego was telling me I knew, and I don't mean to just all of the attitude towards the ego. I think we should also love and nurture our ego. It's a part of ourselves. But
100%.
It just kind of showed me that I thought I knew more than I thought, knew, and it showed in front of all of my peers and the people I looked up to. But such an important experience.
100%. And, being somebody who works virtually, I would say 100%, except maybe some private lessons and stuff and teaching class. It's also, that's the same thing that shows up on social media as well. If you're entrepreneurs in the group listening, it's just any time you have to put yourself out there, there's going to be that protector that comes up that prevents you, or is warning you because it doesn't feel like it's safe to do that thing. One of the things that I found being in the social media space for years now is like the most liberating thing has been just literally owning like all of who I am. Like owning. I used to, in the beginning stages, I used to delete if I messed up or misspoke, and because I didn't want to look unprofessional. I didn't want to be judged unprofessional when I was being a professional in promoting services, right? And then I realized, like, although you don't want to just be completely crap when you're talking, like, you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be human. And lo and behold, people actually connect with humanness. So the more that you allow yourself to be human, and then you have something else to offer, it actually develops a deep resonance for them to actually want to hear what you have to say, because nobody wants to hear a robot. Nobody wants to hear perfection, even though everybody's striving toward it. It's always relieving to the nervous system when we realize, like, oh, wow, this person isn't perfect and they're willing to show that, and so that is something that, again, it applies to all different areas of our life, is like doing your due diligence to do your best, but then also, like, you're human. You can mess up. And I always found that humor is a great way to kind of break that ice with yourself, is kind of like I always love to state the elephant in the room. I love to call the elephant out of the room, like, on myself. Like, I'm like, oh, wow, like, what the hell? I obviously can't speak today. Like, and just like make that normalized.
I like using humor. I would like to pursue something in comedy or do stand-up, because I think it's therapeutic. I think to some degree, I think getting past the anxiety of performing in front of people would probably also help with healing from trauma and connecting with people. But I think using humor it's a unique process. I try to kind of playfully, and sometimes harshly, but playfully joke with my ego when I notice, that I've reacted in some way. But yeah, it kind of just keeps me balanced to use
100%.
humor with, like, sure, yes, if I make a mistake, but if something sounds egotistical, I just call myself out and laugh at it and move on.
100%.
Okay, so I want to know, this, I guess, being a black belt for the past 4 months, and you kind of shared that you've won several of all of your matches from that point. So what would you say is your biggest achievement? Would you say it's these achievements, or is it something else in your life, in your career?
Oh, man. I'm so grateful for the work that I do. Every human I have the honor of impacting is an achievement. The testimonials and feedback I receive from my students just light me up, and I just couldn't be more grateful to be chosen to do this work and to be the one that gets to impact people in this way and use my life experience and wisdom. So just as a general achievement, every single person I've impacted in a positive way, it just fuels my fire, makes my soul so happy. But on some other notes, I'll circle back to jiu-jitsu, but having my son was one of my biggest achievements. He's just such a light in my life, and he's just so incredible. And like the human, I'm not just the human body, the female body is just so freaking incredible. And the whole process was transformative and healing and just evolutionary. And to see him come out of all of that was just like mind-blowing, like completely mind-blowing and heart blasted open. Just so amazing. And so that's my biggest achievement, is him. My black belt is another achievement. But that was something that, as much as it is an achievement, it wasn't as exciting maybe as it is for other people, only because I'm not the kind of person that quits. So like, I knew I was going to get my black belt eventually. Like I never quit anything. So like, I knew that it would come, and I have a black belt in another martial arts. So like, it was just an inevitable thing for me. Of course, it was always nice to be rewarded, and like what that signified, and all the blood, sweat, and tears over the years and all of that, and the growth that happened. So that was a huge achievement. And absolutely every match I've had since black belt has been an achievement for me, because not just the win, but it's just been my mentality starting at Master Worlds, actually, which I got promoted at Master Worlds after my matches. But that whole day was just like, I was just in this mental place of complete serenity, complete power, confidence. And I just knew in that moment, it was really interesting because the whole day, I just kept thinking to myself, like, I just feel like a black belt. Like, I just felt like a black belt, like in my matches. And then just like mentally, I was just like, I'm just beyond ready. And it was interesting. I got promoted that day because I didn't tell anybody my thoughts, but that's just kind of, what I was thinking. And then I got promoted. I'm like, holy crap, that's really cool. That came full circle. I was not expecting my black belt in that moment, but I really do feel ready to take this on. And I'm excited to receive this. And I'm going to open myself up to receive this because I do fucking, earn this. I did earn this. Apologies for that was a
please.
passionate
We're all adults. It's fine. I'm so glad that you fully committed. You stepped into it, and then you received it. That's so beautiful. And also, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and I just think that in doing that, there's just this level of, like, every belt, there's different things to learn and what you're going to be stepping into in that belt. And with black belt, to me, it's just such a it signifies a certain level of expertise and like mastery. Don't get me wrong. I know that I'm a white belt again. I know I'm a white belt again on this journey, being fresh out the black. But I do also have this level of mastery. And what I found that it's done for me is it's really helped me not just fully commit to owning the belt, but it's really helped me step fully into trusting myself. It's really, because like what that represents is like, if my instructor thinks that this is my time, I have two options. I can just keep letting the stories go that it's not my time and not believe in myself, and then that's going to obviously impact my performance. Or I can fully trust my instructor to say he's the one that's been watching me for decades. He's the one that knows everything I've been through. And this is what he's gifting me. And that what this represents, it's my job to step into it. And so part of that role is to really let yourself trust yourself, because you learned a lot to get to that point. And so really trusting yourself is that missing piece. And that's what I feel like has really shifted in these past 4 months, even more so. It definitely happened towards the end of my brown belt, which is why I feel like I was in that black belt mentality. But then once I got my black belt, it just solidified the deal. It just like sealed the deal of like, okay, like now I'm unfuckable. Like now it's on. Well, like, there's no room for self-doubt. Like now I'm all in. Let's go.
I wish I was there or you're here, vice versa. I mean, maybe at some point I can meet you in person, and
yes,
that'd be so cool. It's just amazing that you mentioned this part, and I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that bottom piece being safety and security and water, food, but a very top tier being self-actualization, and it seems like this is a catalyst for that. I mentioned on a previous episode that I believe that jiu-jitsu and also martial arts is a catalyst of accepting your shadow self. That's 100%. That's what happens. It's happening for me. That happened for me. It's allowing yourself to be the whole, the good and the bad, or however we want to label it, but being powerful. It's stepping into your power, owning your power, harnessing your power. So amazing. And also to you and your son and your family. What's your son's name and how old is he?
His name's Johnny, and he actually turns 2 December 21st.
Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. My dad's name is Johnny.
Oh, amazing. I love him so much. He is just such an incredible being. He's such an incredible light beam. I love him so much. And one of the things you had mentioned is something I'm really passionate about bringing into this industry is I have full belief that jiu-jitsu is a vehicle for personal development. If you allow it to be, it will change you and transform you. And I think that is really like representative of the belts. Like, depending all on where your mindset is going into each belt, if you are open to the personal development process and the self-actualization process, that is kind of what that black belt represents. You know, it's not to say that I've reached enlightenment by any means, but there is this certain level of a level of safety within myself, a level of trust within myself, this inner confidence, and don't get me wrong, there's black belts out there that are still operating in pattern, still operating out of fear, and they just did the time and got the black belt, but it can absolutely be this vehicle of like true empowerment. And that black belt is just like a piece of fabric that just indicates a lot of the things that you volunteered yourself for, to get to that point, because healing isn't easy and meeting parts of yourself that you don't want to meet is not easy. But like, if you can just do that and commit to that, like your growth is going to be so much more exponential. But it's not easy. That's the hard, it's like the caveat. It's like, you have to be willing to feel the suck because you're so committed to what that long-term result is going to be and that long-term ROI. We're such in a culture of like short-term gratification, long-term suffering. And like my whole mission is to switch that narrative of like embrace the suck short-term, because what's on the other side might take a little bit of time to get there, but you'll never want to go back.
You mentioned that, and some of the advice you're sharing with my audience is to fully commit and to have that support. But I'm thinking of that in terms of my professor said it's not just taking the first step; it's taking the second step as well. It's not because I guess it's fairly easy to take the first step, I guess, in some situations, but then you can just give up. That can just be the surface level of, oh, I did jujitsu now. I joined a class and I go sometimes. Versus, I'm gonna make a schedule, or these are the times I'm gonna go, and this is what I'm gonna work on, and I'm gonna have my instructors record me so I can look at this and thoroughly, study the moves and all of that. So it's not just step one and step two. It's the roundedness. It's everything you need.
100%.
I'm having such a great conversation with you. I know I'm like at the end of my questions, and like I want to keep talking to you, but I don't want to keep you either. You've got a baby. You've got a baby and a husband to go to. So I guess we kind of covered advice, to your audience, to my audience, and I think I want to make space for maybe a different question than the one that I have.
Yes, please, I'm all for it.
Let me see. I'm this is
I'm an open book.
Improv. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think of my biggest regrets. What I need to change in my training, because I sustained a serious injury and it honestly changed my life. So
you got the injury from training?
Yeah. So I guess I don't remember exactly how it happened because of the concussion there. But just I was pushing so hard. I was not looking at everything. I was burning like 3,000 calories a day. A ton of calories. I don't know your opinions on that, but my sister is a personal trainer. My oldest sister, Donna Lowe, is with Camp Gladiator. So she was kind of giving me some nutrition and then also some insights on my training. And I wanted to be promoted in Muay Thai, and I wanted to, be promoted in BJJ, and I wanted to start my first competition with states. I don't want to criticize that too much because I'm very ambitious, but I don't think I was doing the right things to set myself up for success.
one of the things that goes in hand with some of the advice I'd have for like people just starting out in jiu-jitsu is exactly kind of what you're speaking to. One of the things that jars me and is, again, I have a lot of missions, right? So one of the missions that I have is to prevent white belts from getting injuries. Because seriously, I've been doing this for over a decade and I've never had a severe injury. And granted, I was in burnout for a period of time and I wasn't doing it right in the beginning, but I was able to catch that sooner than later. And my young body was able to be resilient enough. I think it also had to do with being an athlete. I had a little bit more of that kind of cushion to fall on. But I learned my lesson and then completely shifted my messaging, and what I was passionate about teaching was the sustainability and the longevity of this sport. And the biggest thing I notice is that when people start out in jiu-jitsu, they are over committing to the 10th degree. Like they're training too much, too fast. And it didn't really, I've been teaching this for a long time. But it didn't really click with me as far as a nervous system perspective until I started getting into trauma-informed work, where I realized that like we are just pushing ourselves and we're doing so in a way. So let me try to integrate a couple concepts without convoluting it. So one of the reasons why jiu-jitsu is so addictive, in my opinion, is because it's the one time where we become present. Because we're so used to escaping our lives. We're so used to doing everything else, and we're using strategies to numb, avoid, or distract ourselves. And when we get into jiu-jitsu, we get this euphoric honeymoon phase where we're like, first of all, it's a new thing. Human beings love newness. They love newness, right? We don't like monotony. Like we love newness. And so it's a new thing. It makes us feel empowered because we're learning something. We're physically feeling stronger because we're physically using our body. There's all these aspects, but then what can slowly start to happen when we're unaware is all of a sudden we become this like addicted pattern where it's like this escapism that we're using. And then it causes us to be so committed to this all the time and do all the things because we love it. But in doing that, we are stretching our nervous system too fast, too quickly. We're doing too much too fast, and it causes us to burn out. For sustainability to happen, for a sustainable lifestyle, we must integrate slowly and steadily. Our nervous systems have to recalibrate to this new way of being, literally like signing up to be in fight or flight mode, like 3 times a week, right? We have to recalibrate to that. We have to integrate it into our actual schedule. Like all of a sudden we have this thing that we commit to 3 days a week that's 90 minutes long. We have to integrate that to create balance in our life with the other things. And then we also need to, because from a fitness perspective, whenever you start something new as a physical activity, your body's going to be extra sore in the beginning because it's getting accustomed to using muscles and ligaments and tendons and all these things in a way it's not used to. So your risk of injury is actually higher because your body's using itself in new ways. No new neural pathways have formed yet. So you're at high risk for injury. Now you're going overtime and you don't have any skill or technique because you just started. So now it's just like this frantic movement that's going to be a glutton for punishment when it comes to injury. And I think what we're not taught or encouraged to do when we sign up is like, don't come like more than 3 times a week. That's actually something that I really love that my coach and husband has always done, is his beginner program was a max 3 times a week, because he understood that concept that like you only can come these classes when you get to a certain level, then you can integrate that. But we need to make sure that you don't hit burnout. That's what happens when white belts do it, and then they end up getting injured. And then I see literally constantly in my life right now, white belts with ACL tears and shoulder tears. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? Like, I've been doing this for 12 years and I literally had a stub thumb. Like, like granted, I have a lot of knowledge to prevent these injuries from happening, but that's why it's my duty to kind of share this, because it doesn't have to be that way. But that's the biggest thing I notice when people start training. So like my warning is that it will be addictive. Like it will be exciting. And all those things are amazing, but you have to kind of pull back that urge to just want to go because it feels good, and like trust the process and trust that like you want to be in this for longevity, and it starts when you first start, not when you're a brown belt and you already have 52 injuries and now you're forced to recover. Like, it starts now by just like being aware that that might happen, and then just having that self-discipline to pull back and say, okay, I'm just going to commit to this until it becomes more integrated as a lifestyle. And then maybe I can add a fourth class, right? And then it's not integrating 5 days of jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, extra lifting, this, all within 1 month of starting jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Sounds like me. But if I love something, I love it. And so, and jiu-jitsu is a love of mine. I did not pace myself. This is perfect advice. My trauma response is to, of course, impress my instructors and the other members of the dojo, and just
that makes it worse, right? That makes it worse, because then all of a sudden they're feeding our ego with that. Like, they're feeding that part of us unintentionally, not maliciously, but they're like, oh wow, you come to class a lot. Oh wow, you're really committed. Oh wow, like you're doing that, and you're like, oh God, I'm really poor. I really want to take off, but they just gave me all that praise and acknowledgement, which goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. So then we're kind of just like, okay, well, now I'm at this complex. I want this praise. I want this acknowledgement. So I want to keep go, 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 go. And then you're burnt out, crying in the corner when you get home, and you're like, what? I keep going.
Yeah. And I'm working on being more vulnerable about the traumas. What brought me to martial arts to begin with, this trauma. So sharing that with my group, allowing people to support me is something I'm working on. So really having balance. There was a post that you posted recently about rest, and I just want to highlight that a little bit, because I know that that's an essential part of EMDR therapy. I don't want to say that therapy in general, talk therapy, but the element of rest that the athlete goes through processing in EMDR therapy, that element of rest is really where you're doing most of the healing. You're backing off. So that happens in EMDR, but it happens in meditation as well. And this is something that I learned over the past 2 years is the importance of rest in space, like just allowing things to be. I lost it, when I was training. I just kind of ignored all of the knowledge that I have. I didn't apply it to
It's
my training.
hard.
Yeah. I'm just like an active person in general. So I was dancing for 2 or 3 hours a day on top of the training. So I was just constantly active, and then I would get so exhausted that I would miss like a couple of weeks of training. So there wasn't a balance, and I wasn't talking to people about it, and the injury. So this is a new chapter, and I was able to find a Gracie gym out here, and that's the philosophy, is to not, you're at the white belt level, don't take more than a few classes a week. And I think they only offer 3 at max a week, so that it's not outside of that range.
Yeah.
Good to know.
100%. Yeah, like with the rest piece, again, most of us are hardwired in fight or flight. The fact of the matter is, we all have trauma to different varying degrees. When we were birthed into the world, we had trauma. And we also have generational trauma that goes beyond us living in this world. So trauma is not going away anytime soon. But when we are operating from trauma, we are operating in fight or flight. And it's really hard to slow down. So like, resting isn't as easy as just rest. There's a lot of stuff that comes up because we don't feel safe to rest, because there's a lot of stories around doing nothing or just resting, and that doesn't feel safe. So we just keep going because that's what feels safe and familiar to our nervous system, even though it's not actually supporting our well-being and causing us to burn out. It doesn't feel safe, so it's unfamiliar territory to rest. but it's so critical to our healing process and for our ultimate performance. For us to actually progress, we need to rest. And this is like a mantra I have. You want to progress faster, like rest more, because that's where our body heals physically. Our tissues literally heal during rest. Everybody thinks that when we're working out in the gym, that's what builds muscle. It's not what builds muscle. You're actually breaking down muscle actively. Your rest day is where you build your muscle. So that happens spiritually, mentally, physically, all the aspects, the same principle applies. The rest is in the healing and the growth. And when it comes to what you had said earlier, like one point I just want to like state is like, when it comes to healing, it requires three things. And this is my belief, and it's safety, time, and space. That's what healing requires. So if we want to heal from our past, we want to heal our trauma, if we want to step into a more empowered self, we first need to create safety in our body, because none of it's happening if we don't feel safe. And the safer we feel, the more our traumas will actually start to resurface, which is the shitty thing. It's the shitty thing, which is why you have to work with a professional, and somebody that you can really trust to support you, who is trauma informed. Because if that just comes up and you feel safe, you can get re-traumatized. So you need to really titrate that. And that's just like a little aside, I'll say, for those in that category. But safety is number one. So as we start to feel more safe, these things will come up, but then having that support system to support us through that is really critical to actually make that transition into that healing process. But then we need time and space. Now, this is what is the hard part with rest, because we don't give ourselves the time and space. So it's not even about meditating. It's not even about breath work, which are things that I advocate for. To make it really simple and easy to do, it's about just doing less. It's not even about adding more, right? Because then that's where we get caught up in the other thing, where it's like, okay, I'm going to add meditation to my schedule so that I can do nothing. But it's another thing that we're adding that we have to remember, that we have to commit to. And it absolutely will change your life if you do those practices. But to start small, just stop committing to more. Just say no more. Let yourself literally give yourself the gift of white space in your schedule. It is like the best feeling in the world. I used to book myself literally minute to minute, and then I would be stressed out because I had a small window of tolerance. And if I got in traffic more than 5 minutes than I planned, that pushed everything else back 5 minutes. So then I'd be constantly stressed because everything else I was late for. So what I realized was, Natalie, just create some space and a buffer for you to have some space for life to happen. And then you'll be able to be more adaptable to when life happens. So taking less things out and just commit to what is your priority. And then around what is your priority, things that are your priority should only be things that are aligned with your values. That's really all you should be prioritizing. So if anything falls outside of the values that you have, then they go off the schedule, at least to start. And then let yourself have the white space. Let yourself have that room to freaking breathe. And that alone is healing. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to even commit to reading a self-help book. Let yourself breathe. And you are already in your healing.
I get there's so much anxiety for me around just being, just allowing it to be and having the white space. But I've been a Lyft driver for a long time. I'm kind of doing that still a little bit, but there was a conversation I had with a passenger that stopped driving after a traumatic car accident and said that she didn't think she could ever return to that. But my advice to her was to give space. That's how you stay safe. And you can count or what have you, but make sure you leave the same amount of space so that you have control over what might happen. And then in her response to me was, well, then somebody else gets in front of me. And I said, well, then create the same space and keep doing it. Always respect that space, because that's your safety, that's your life. So that's just how I approach it. And also to do breath work in the car and to listen to comedy. And I listen to comedy a lot.
Yes.
So I can stay in this space of safety, to be present and protect the other drivers too.
I love that.
Okay, so those are all my questions. So I'm going to give you space to ask me questions, or and also if if you have any sponsors too, I want to give time for that.
Yeah. So I work with Monkey Tape. So I work with Monkey Tape. I highly recommend them. They're the tape I've been using since day one, and they literally saved my fingers. I don't have any broken or damaged fingers, but it's because I tape all the time in every class because I prevent that from happening. I think a lot of people use tape when they're already injured. I think the reverse should be the case. I think you should tape proactively so that you can protect your knuckles and your joints. I highly recommend Monkey Tape. Hold Fast has been my sponsor for a long time now. I want to say maybe, I can't believe it's been that long, maybe 2018, 2019, definitely Purple Belt. Hold Fast Fight Gear, based out of New York. They've been my sponsors from the very beginning of my Purple Belt competition days, and I just love. They're a smaller community, a smaller company, but they take care of their athletes and always support them. So that's my gi company that sponsors me, and no gi. And when it comes to any of my you know what? My other sponsor is not jiu-jitsu related per se, but it's Frey Skincare. So Frey Skincare is an all vegan skincare company, and they specifically design their products for women who sweat is their tagline. So obviously, if you do jiu-jitsu, you probably sweat. So they have literally plethora of products, from nighttime serums to face washes to tinted moisturizers to face masks. I've been using them again for probably 3-4 years now. And I have a discount code. You just go to freyskincare.com, just type in Nattie Boss, and you get 15% off all their products. And they literally run sales all the time. So you will always save a buck at Frey Skincare. And I also love it because they're sustainable. So they, for every set that they sell, they give money back and plant a tree to the Morocco, I believe it is, where they harvest the argan trees that they use the argan oil from for their products. So I love that it's a cyclical giving back to Mother Earth process. So I love everything about them. They stand for everything I stand for. So I definitely recommend checking them out. And also amazing Christmas gifts to give people from Frey Skincare, like for your girls and stuff, 100%. And
amazing skin, by the way. I can tell that I guess they don't know you before you were using the skin products, but you have amazing skin.
Thanks. I would definitely attribute it to probably diet, lots of water, and then skincare products. Yeah, so I would say that's probably it.
I have those same values. I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian my whole life. But I'm so glad there's a company that is having that cyclical process of recycling and putting it back into the planet, so we're not just taking.
100%. I love that so much. And yeah, I've been vegan for about over a decade. Yeah, probably over a decade now. And I was vegetarian before that. I made that transition going into college. I went vegan in college. And it's been the best thing ever. You know, I never push my agenda on other people when it comes to their nutrition. I think whatever works for you works for you. But if you are struggling with certain symptoms, it's worth exploring, because I've never felt the best I ever have in my life than being vegan. I've never had, just to debunk a myth real quick, I've never had any deficiency, because if you eat the right foods in the right amounts, in the right quantities, with the right balance, you will not be deficient. That is literally the biggest myth out there. And I am known for having muscles. So you're not going to be weak and feeble if you go vegan. You can still build muscle pound for pound. I am the strongest person that I know at my weight and height. And I manhandle guys who are 250 pounds. So you can be strong, you can be a badass and be vegan. So I just want to put that little plug out there because I obviously adopt it as a lifestyle because I really feel strongly about it. So it's just an invitation, not an obligation. But if you ever have questions, please feel free to, like I said, shoot me questions on Instagram. I'd love to chat with you about it. But I always let that be a conversation that you start, so that I do not, I'm not under the impression of pushing an agenda. But if you're ever interested, the invitation's always there to talk about it with me.
I appreciate that. Thank you for speaking for us all. It's not going to make you weak and feeble.
Yes.
It's a choice, There's people all over the planet that have different dietary styles based on their culture.
Yes.
Healthy people all over. So thank you for that. I'm gonna let you go here unless you have anything else for me.
No, just thank you for having me on this show. I hope that you guys, learned something. I hope that this inspired you in some way. It's been such an amazing conversation. I had such a blast having this conversation. I love, having some little bullet points, but like letting it free flow and letting us chat. It's like my favorite. I love connecting and collabing, and just supporting each other. So thank you so much for spending the time with me on the Saturday night to hang out and chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad that I connected with you. I'm going to stop the recording and then just and chat with you a tiny bit after. So, okay, let me stop this.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I want to thank all my listeners for supporting me on this podcast. And if you'd like to reach out to Nattie, she is on Instagram. It's at Nattie Boss RD. So it's at NATTIEBOSSRD. She has the links to all of the programs that she offers. She has a website. It's www.bodybyboss.com. She also has an Instagram page, Body by Boss LLC. She has such great information. Check out her pages. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I'm also on Instagram at freedom_2_fight. It's freedom_2_fight. You can also send me an email at anurafree@gmail.com. So it's ANURAFREE@gmail.com. I'll include the information in this episode, and please reach out to me. I hope that you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks.